so much for joining us on this Wednesday. Great to see you. I hope that you are getting through your work week okay. I'm Veronica Cruz. Here are the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
And Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani is expected to join 4 of the 19 co-defendants surrendered in the last 18 hours.
I'm going to Georgia, and I'm feeling very, very good about it.
And what are we expecting tomorrow? That is when the former president is expected to show up here, kind of seeing some beefed up security around the jail.
So he's going to have to get fingerprinted, have his picture taken, and do the necessary paperwork to get out.
President Trump has avoided that up to date. And imagine how that's going to sort of galvanize the media and the American people at a time, of course, when lots of other Republican candidates are trying to break out and make themselves known.
We still expect several more days for these teams to continue to go through this area.
Everything that they find will go back to the morgue, to the forensic facility.
A new report says affordable used cars are vanishing.
Prices are high, mileages are high.
Probably the best value out there is a good low mile 4-door sedan.
Welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. We begin this hour with some breaking news out of Pittsburgh. Local reports say hundreds of rounds have been fired in Garfield, which is a neighborhood in Pittsburgh. And reportedly, sheriff's deputies were serving an eviction notice when the occupant fired shots. The Pittsburgh Police SWAT team is on the scene, as you can see from these live pictures. Again, we're monitoring the situation. We will bring you more on this developing story as soon as we get the details. I want to get you now to our top story today. Former President Trump and 18 co-defendants now have until noon on Friday to turn themselves in after being charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election. 6 people have done so already, with Kenneth Chesborough and Ray Smith surrendering at the Fulton County Jail this morning. And former New York mayor and former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani has just arrived to Atlanta. National political correspondent Avajoy Burnett is just outside the jail in Atlanta, where all the defendants must turn themselves in. So Avajoy, what is the latest on yet another high-profile co-defendant, Rudy Giuliani? We're hearing that he is now here in the city. What are you hearing?
Hi, Veronica. Good afternoon to you. Well, the clock is ticking. We're just now under the 48-hour window where all of those 19 co-defendants, including the former president, will have to show up here and turn themselves in. So we now know that Rudy Giuliani, he is here in Atlanta, and his situation is a bit unusual because he's going to be making 2 stops reportedly today. He's reportedly going to be going to the Fulton County Court, meet with the district attorney to work out the terms of his bond. And then after that, if all things are worked out, then he's expected to come here to the courthouse, to the jail on Rice Street, to be booked and be processed, get his fingerprints taken and his mugshot taken. And so this is unusual because for all of the other folks who've come to this process so far, they did them in 2 separate days. There were some hours and days in between the bond being worked out and then the surrender. So this is different for Rudy Giuliani. Here's what he said right before he took off to get here to Atlanta to members of the media.
And I'm feeling very, very good about it because I feel like I'm defending the rights of all Americans, as I did so many times as a United States attorney. People like to say I'm different. I'm the same Rudy Giuliani that took down the mafia, that made New York City the safest city in America, reduced crime more than any mayor in the history of any city, anywhere. And I'm fighting for justice. I have been from the first moment. I represented Donald Trump.
Okay, so that is Rudy Giuliani. He is now here in Atlanta getting his bond and possible surrender worked out. We know that the former president, Donald Trump, is expected to be here in Atlanta in about 24 hours to surrender as well, Veronica.
All right, so Rudy Giuliani working through the details of his bond agreement right now. Avajoy, who are the other people who have surrendered so far?
So as we mentioned already, there's a 2-step process here. So you first have to work out the terms of your bond. And we want to pull up on the screen for you, more than a dozen people have already agreed to some sort of bond, with a former president at the top of this with a $200,000 bond. And then it goes down from there to as low as $10,000. But we want to show you some of the other folks here who have already surrendered, including Kathy Latham, David Schaefer, John Eastman, Scott Hall, Kenneth Chesborough, and Ray Smith. These are 6 of the 19 who have already surrendered. But we do know that the process is moving along here because we're seeing way more people than we saw just about 24 hours ago who have the terms of their bond already worked out. It is very important to note that people can show up at any time 24/7. That is something that the Fulton County Sheriff's Office emphasized, and that's why we saw 2 people turn themselves in the early morning hours overnight this morning. So we have to wait to see exactly what time all of these remaining co-defendants choose to turn themselves in, Veronica.
All right, Abijoy, keeping a close eye on this one. Abijoy Burnett live for us there in Atlanta. We appreciate it. Thank you. So with Trump set to turn himself into authorities tomorrow on the criminal case against him in Fulton County, Georgia, the 2 federal cases against him continue. And there is a significant new development in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. National political correspondent Kevin Cirilli joins us now live from Washington. So, Kevin, what is the latest on this front?
This is fascinating, Veronica, because the whole basis and the crux of this indictment relating to Trump having boxes of classified documents shipped from the White House down to his Mar-a-Lago estate. Remember those boxes of classified documents? It relies on this security footage. And in the indictment, there was an allegation that some of the security footage on the surveillance cameras was deleted and that Trump had wanted the surveillance footage deleted to hide this evidence of these classified document boxes. And one of the individuals, the director of Mar-a-Lago's surveillance room, essentially testified that that was not the case. But guess who was paying his legal bills? Trump's super PAC. He was originally represented by an attorney that Trump super PAC was paying for. Then he fired the attorney, got his own legal representation, and he has flipped against his former boss, the former president of the United States, Trump, specifically on this allegation of deleted security footage in the cameras at Mar-a-Lago next to the pool room where there was all of these boxes of classified documents. Let's pull up the court documents because it really specifically illustrates this. And it says, essentially, that document, quote, immediately after receiving new counsel, Trump employee 4 retracted his prior false testimony and provided information that implicated Trump and others in efforts to delete security camera footage as set forth in the superseding indictment. These are the tapes. Veronica, these are the security footage tapes that were in Mar-a-Lago in the surveillance footage room. And, you know, he gets his own attorney and he flips. It's a fascinating development. And quite frankly, it's reminiscent of Watergate with the tapes.
So, Kevin, let me go ahead and get this straight because we don't necessarily know who this person is. They're only being identified as Trump employee number 4.
Now, there's an allusion to another individual's name later on in the court documents. I don't want to reference that name because I haven't confirmed that Trump person number 4 and the other individual are in fact the same person. Other outlets are making that assumption. I don't want to assume until I have it completely locked down. But this individual, in retaining new legal representation, has in fact flipped. It's reminiscent of a broader trend, right, Veronica?
Oh,
you and I have talked about this off air. Michael Cohen. Remember him? He was Trump's original fixer back in the Trump Organization era. And I remember interviewing him multiple times, and he would try to fix everything, get it done. He signed up with Lanny Davis and flipped against Trump as it relates to the Stormy Daniels indictment and whatnot and the hush money payments against Trump. Then you have these allegations coming from Trump world, but these are expensive cases. Back during the first impeachment, I would talk to sources who were wrapped up in it, who would say to me how expensive this is. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of legal fees. And Trump world would say, well, we'll pay for your lawyers. Or we can fundraise off of their lawyers. Stephen Miller, he's out with a super PAC video this week asking for money to the Trump legal fund. And you know, but once that comes with strings attached, right? If your boss is paying for your lawyer, are they really the best agent for you? And in this case, as evidenced by the Mar-a-Lago, as evidenced by Michael Cohen, as evidenced by the others in the impeachment that I would interview, the answer is no.
Yeah, you're making some great points. And I mean, The former president has 91 criminal counts against him right now. There are multiple co-defendants in 4 different cases, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this in the future. Kevin's really live in Washington. Kevin, thank you so much. So there's been a lot of preparation ahead of tonight's Republican primary debate. Sarah McGrew with Scripps News Milwaukee spoke with one of the volunteers working behind the scenes to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
It takes a lot of people to make sure a presidential debate comes together, including dozens of local volunteers.
Boy, there's a buzz down there. It was kind of exciting to see that. And I think it's a great opportunity for Milwaukee. Gets us on the map in preparation for next summer.
Ari Larson-Mantia is involved with the Republican Women of Greater Milwaukee group. She is one of many volunteers that will be greeting debate goers this week.
And then we're going to be at the debate, and we also will be doing, I hope, bringing in people for the debate, checking their credentials and everything like that.
She's also excited to get the chance to watch the debate live and get to know the Republican candidates better.
I want to see how they differentiate from the frontrunner. We did vote for Trump. I'm not ashamed to say that, but I do want to see what else is available.
But more than anything, her pride is in being a part of the American democratic process.
I think that that's our job as Americans, and I feel that even if your particular candidate favorite, no matter which party you're involved in, isn't perhaps leading and isn't perhaps getting the nomination, it's still your job as an American to vote. We can't sit on the sidelines and complain about it because we're not doing anything. So you have to get involved and do something.
And with the lead up to the convention next year, she hopes to see others coming out to volunteer.
And that was Sarah McGrew reporting there for us. You can find a deeper dive on all of these stories and a whole lot more online. Feel free to check us out, scripsnews.com, also on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, the search for the missing on Maui proving to be difficult for officials with hundreds still unaccounted for. How they're asking family members to step up and help. Also, Tropical Storm Hillary caused mass flooding across California, but it also brought out some unfamiliar faces. Why new animals are popping up that those in San Diego aren't really used to seeing. And we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is 1-833-4SCRIPPS. You can share your comments and your story ideas with us. We'll be right back.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Why is Aaron happy? Well, Carvana has tens of thousands of cars under $20,000. So Aaron's folks could help hook him up with a new ride. We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
This stuff is a miracle. It took us 60 prototypes. When we made this stuff, it grew into the #1 dermatologist recommended sweat brand for all over the body. When people say this is the first thing I've tried that stopped my sweat, that makes my day. We have a sweat quiz that'll customize the products for you based on where you sweat, based on how much you sweat. Free shipping, money back guarantee. There's really no risk to giving it a try. If you had a sweaty face or sweaty underarms or sweaty hands, that's really why we made Carpe.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
And we continue to follow some breaking news right now out of Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Public Safety account that is on X, or formerly known as Twitter, posted just moments ago. The scene, as you can see, is still extremely active. Shots are still being fired. Local reports say hundreds of rounds have been fired so far in Garfield, which is a neighborhood in Pittsburgh. And reportedly, sheriff's deputies there were serving an eviction notice when the occupant of that apartment fired shots. Now, the Pittsburgh Police SWAT team is on the scene right now. As you could see, that whole area cordoned off there by crime scene tape. We're going to bring you more information as soon as we get it. I want to get you now to Hawaii. Officials there are saying more than 800 people are still missing on Maui after those deadly wildfires ignited 2 weeks ago. And they're asking families of those unaccounted for to submit DNA samples. Officials say a little more than 100 families have done so far. And the FBI has a list of about 1,000 people who may still be unaccounted for.
Happening right here in Maui, and the samples that are donated at the Family Assistance Center are not being entered into any sort of government-run databases that are used for any other purposes.
There are now 115 confirmed deaths. Authorities say that they are done searching single-story homes in the disaster area. They're now moving on to searching multi-story homes and businesses. And Maui has a long road ahead. Monetary donations will be crucial for survivors struggling to piece their lives back together again. Scripps News is supporting those relief efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen if you would like to help. More than a third of the country is facing life-threatening heat today. A so-called heat dome is covering much of the Midwest and the South and the Southwest, all prompting heat warnings and advisories in 17 different states. And that includes major cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and New Orleans. According to the National Weather Service, those cities will see highs in the upper 90s and low 100s throughout the end of the week, but the humidity will make it feel like it's about 20 degrees warmer. Authorities are still searching for a missing woman after Tropical Storm Hilary brought record rain to Southern California. Witnesses say the woman was inside a trailer, which was swept away in a flash flood in the Southern Oaks area. Both San Bernardino County Fire Crews and the Sheriff's Department have been leading the rescue efforts. And the heavy rain from Tropical Storm Hilary triggered certain critters to leave their hiding place. Madison Weil with Scripps News San Diego shows us what people have been seeing in their neighborhood.
In the days following Tropical Storm Hilary, some San Diegans are noticing some new critters in their neighborhoods.
Look at all the froggies.
From these frogs in Poway to these in Lakeside. And in Santee, something this family had never seen.
Look at these guys.
Crawfish.
Look at him.
But after the rain y'all got from the tropical system, it's not surprising.
Dr. Chris Bonvillain, a crawfish expert and professor, says these are red swamp crawfish, the same ones they have in Louisiana, although they're invasive here in California.
A lot of crawfish, what they do is they go in burrows when it's drier.
And then when it rains, he says that's their cue to come out. The good news is, apart from a little pinch, the crawfish are harmless.
No poisonous venomous crawfish anywhere in the world.
He says they might even become a snack for our local critters.
A lot of birds will eat those. Raccoons.
The other post-storm pest being seen around San Diego, mosquitoes.
Pockets of water in people's yards are essentially just breeding spots for mosquitoes.
Alex Kaspriak runs a mosquito control business. He says any post-storm still water can cause mosquito eggs that have been dormant for months or even years to hatch.
With all the rains, it's just causing, the mosquitoes to breed by the thousands, and a lot of my clients are they're saying, they're blowing up my phone asking me when I can get out there next.
Urging San Diegans to dry up any lingering water pockets on their property to keep those pesky skeeters away. Madison Weil reporting.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, after dangling in a cable car 900 feet above a deep valley ravine, 7 students and their teacher are now safe. How rescuers were able to do it. Also, a milestone on the moon, how India's unmanned vehicle made history in space. That's next.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger. Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. And rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed? Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
Window Wear Project helped me find the strength to go further than I ever thought possible.
I was able to come out of my shell and really connect with others.
So I can feel like part of a team, part of the community again.
It's possible to live better.
It's possible to have a voice and to be heard.
To feel understood.
To find peace.
Because I've experienced firsthand that anything is possible.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush. Thanks so much for being with us.
Context and conversation.
This next story, we were talking about this earlier today.
Get the stories that will shape each day.
Here with us now is meteorologist Scott Withers. We got just wave after wave after wave.
So you can get on with yours.
Make sure you stay with us as we monitor this developing story.
Morning Rush, weekday mornings starting at 7, 6 Central, only on Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. 8 people are alive after an incredible rescue in Pakistan. 6 children, 2 adults spent 14 hours suspended in a cable car 900 feet above the ground after a cable snapped while crossing a river canyon. And the children were on their way to school. Darkness and dangerous winds complicated several attempts, but crews were able to safely rescue everyone on board. And here is that moment when rescue crews brought a boy safely to the ground. Amazing. Correspondent Rebecca Bunden in neighboring India has the details on the rescue and how everyone is doing now.
Yes, really, there's just enormous relief that this all ended well and that all the passengers trapped on that cable car, mainly children who'd been on their way to school, were rescued. And it had been an extremely difficult rescue operation that took many, many hours. Initially, it was really a military helicopter that was trying to get to the passengers, but it really struggled with weather conditions, including gusty winds, and the fact that that cable car was hanging by a single line, dangling 900 feet over the ravine in that mountainous area, and it was really difficult for it to get very close. But we do know that one child was rescued by helicopter, and then the military helicopters actually had to stop operations once night fell. And then it was really up to the zip line method. And we know that's how most of the passengers were actually brought to safety in the end, using that zip line, mostly during the hours of darkness. It went on for so long, this rescue mission, but finally it did have a positive result. Those kids were reunited with their families. This has raised questions about the safety of cable cars that are widely used in mountainous areas of Pakistan. Often they're locally built and with little safety considerations, little safety methods taken into consideration. So Pakistan's acting Prime Minister has now called for all privately built cable cars to be inspected. Rebecca Bundan for Scripps News, Mumbai.
And cheering and excitement in India to tell you about. This morning, the country became only the 4th country to successfully land on the moon. The Chandrayaan-3, which means moon vehicle in Sanskrit, touched down on the moon's south pole, which hasn't been done before. International correspondent Ishan Garg has more now from New Delhi.
India's Chandrayaan-3 module landed on the moon's south pole amid massive cheers from scientists at the Indian Space Research Organization, as well as hundreds of millions of citizens who were watching the landing live in multiple watch parties across the country. Several such parties were organized not only in the capital, New Delhi, but also across the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's actually in South Africa for the BRICS summit, also joined in to watch the landing and said that the moon is merely the starting of India's space ambitions. He said that India is very soon going to be launching another mission to study the sun, another mission to study Venus, as well as a manned mission to the space as well. This mission has been widely anticipated in the country, and many across the world are seeing this as the beginning of a space race. India is now hoping to put a man into space by 2025, and China is hoping to put a man on the moon by 2030, which is why many are seeing this as a space race brewing between two Asian giants. But experts in India are saying that this is more in service of humanity, and that's where India's intentions are. Experts that I've spoken to are saying that this mission is going to demonstrate India's technical capabilities on an international stage, and are also going to provide an impetus to many space projects coming up in the next few years as well. Just this year, India allocated nearly $1.5 billion to its space mission, and it's also liberalized the sector, opened it up to private investments, and through all of these actions, the country is now hoping to become a major space power. Ishan Garg for Scripps, New Delhi.
For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right now on Scripps News Live. Don't go too far.
There's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Checking your credit score or bank statements may not be enough to alert you. That's because identity threats appear in more places than you realize, making it dangerously easy to become a victim.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and tried to buy a car in my name. Felt really devastating, frightened, because I had no control.
Identity thieves can use your information to open loans, transfer home titles, even commit crimes.
Someone used my information to open up bank accounts in my name. It was terrifying, not knowing what was out there and what had been opened.
But protecting your identity can be easy with LifeLock, a leader in identity theft protection. LifeLock monitors for threats to your identity, especially ones you may miss by simply checking your accounts or credit. If there's an issue, LifeLock will alert you.
There was a big yes button and there was a big no button.
So I clicked, that's not me, and LifeLock took it from there.
And if you're a victim, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you. I don't know what I would have done without my restoration specialist.
All plans backed by LifeLock's $1 million protection package, including reimbursement for stolen funds, personal expenses, and coverage for lawyers and experts if needed.
With the $1 million protection package, I know LifeLock has me covered.
It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity, but now it's easy to help protect yourself.
I realize identity theft can happen to anybody, so that's why I signed up for LifeLock.
Join the millions of people already protected by LifeLock, and for a limited time, save 25% with promo code 25 today. LifeLock. Identity theft protection starts here. Call 800-301-9328 or visit lifelock.com/25 today and use promo code 25 today to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica Cruz. I want to get you to some breaking news that we've been following out of Pittsburgh, where there's been an active shooter situation reported. Now, according to the Pittsburgh Public Safety account on X, formerly known as Twitter, authorities there have begun evacuating people from the homes in the area. Local reports say hundreds of rounds have been fired in Garfield, which is a neighborhood in Pittsburgh. Sheriff's deputies reportedly serving an eviction notice when the occupant of that building opened fire. Now, the Pittsburgh Police SWAT team is on the scene, as you can see right here by the pictures. We're going to continue to monitor this development. We're going to bring you the information as it comes into us. Now to an emotional confrontation in the Tennessee State Legislature. A group of mothers who showed up in force to call for more gun control was forced out of a subcommittee meeting. Phil Williams of Scripps News Nashville has more on this growing controversy as lawmakers clamp down on people who try to voice their opposition.
What about our First Amendment rights? We have rights to hold a sign.
If House Republicans thought this group of worried mothers wouldn't push back, they seriously miscalculated. A simple act of quiet protest quickly turned into a scene as Nashville mom Allison Polidor and others defied orders to put down their signs.
This is not what democracy looks like.
In a legislature that allows permit holders to carry guns into committee rooms,
This isn't more dangerous than a gun.
on the House side, signs are now illegal.
Wasn't saying anything, I wasn't doing anything, I was holding up a sign. And when we've come to a point where you can't hold up a sign, that's not okay. That's not democracy.
There's been a suggestion here this afternoon that these rules are somehow un-American or anti-democratic. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Democrats objected Monday to no avail as the Republican supermajority passed new rules to clamp down on expressions of dissent during this special session on public safety, arguing that it's necessary to preserve order. Now just holding up a sign, which we've seen for years on a variety of issues, that is grounds for ejection from public sessions of the state house.
I mean, this is immoral, it's extreme, it is something that is shameful, it is a clear signal of the leadership of Speaker Cameron Sexton that this is no longer the people's house.
Representative Justin Jones was also among those who objected to the use of state police to limit the number of people allowed into the Capitol to observe debate on the House floor. Members of the group Moms Demand Action and other activists experienced it firsthand.
They would say, wait, the doors are locked,
You can't go back out that way. We couldn't get in. We also couldn't get out at one point.
Literally on the gold plaque in the back there, it has the capacity of this particular room, and there is a capacity of the Capitol, from my understanding. But
House Republicans blamed it on building codes. In fact, we found a sign on the House floor showing a maximum capacity of 284. 44, 48. Up in the gallery, 72, 76. We counted seats. 96, 100. Down one side, 112, 116. And back up the other, 144, 148. We wanted to know if Republicans, 224, 228, actually had a point. 240, 244, 248 seats up in the galleries. That's not including standing room on the floor for the 99 members and their staffs, plus all of the room out in the lobby.
Welcome to all of you who are here today.
Then we pulled this video from the beginning of the legislative session this year on the day lawmakers brought their families as they were sworn in. The galleries were packed and no one was concerned about building codes when it was their people in the crowd. Jones argues the tactics of the speaker and his allies may backfire.
But the more he does this, the more that it just brings people out to show how absurd this is. It shows how fragile their power is.
That was Phil Williams reporting there from Nashville for us. So Ralph Yarl is among the high school students who started a new school year in Kansas City, Missouri this week. He was the teenager who was shot after knocking on the wrong door to pick up two siblings. Alyssa Jackson with Scripps News Kansas City shows us how his family has been healing and now giving back.
Healing for a family thrust into the spotlight after trauma is more of a marathon than a sprint.
Just wanted to start off by asking how you guys are doing.
I am tired, but not really allowed to be tired, you know?
We've been, wanting to check in on Ralph since this all happened.
If you knew him, you will know something happened because he has a scar right here. But if you didn't know him, no.
Yeah.
Ralph is Ralph.
Ralph is Ralph.
Yeah.
Ralph Yarl's life and his family's does not look the same since April 13th.
When it comes down to making a U-turn and turning in someone's driveway, things like that gives me an anxiety, if I get an address, I have to double check it because I don't want to go to the wrong house.
Because going to the wrong house is what prosecutors say got Ralph shot that day. Driving his siblings around is still too much.
Because why? He was willingly going to pick them up from a play date, and this happened. So it's not even a conversation that we're willing to have. We haven't healed enough to have that conversation.
Pushing them through was their close-knit family. And the love they've been shown for 4 months from across the world and right here at home. We love you, Ralph! Their routines might look different, but there isn't much that can stop whatever Ralph had planned before April 13th.
When we first moved to the United States, we live on Staten Island. We live in the projects, and we all went to college and got graduate degrees. So that's not even a question that he was going to go back and finish his senior degree, his diploma. He knows that.
In just over a week from today, they're expecting to see the man accused of almost taking Ralph's life, 84-year-old Andrew Lester, in court.
We would much rather it be a speedy process.
But for now, they have something else keeping them busy.
After all of this happened and all of the love that we got from Kansas City, from other states, from the world, it was just how can we give back?
Ralph will choose a family who's been victim to racially motivated gun violence. A portion of the proceeds from these handmade bracelets from their native country in Ghana will go to them.
Those who wear it is a symbol of hope. That one day, the value of someone's life would not be determined based on the color of their skin.
That was Alyssa Jackson reporting for us there from Kansas City, Missouri. So billions of dollars worth of military hardware sent to Ukraine has yet to see action in the counteroffensive. In many cases, intense training needs to happen first. However, the U.S.-supplied Bradley fighting vehicles have entered the fight, and national correspondent Jason Bellini says Ukraine has been making some gains on the battlefield.
Under intense Russian shelling, Bradley fighting vehicles supplied to Ukraine by the U.S. push ahead. advancing as the 47th Mechanized Brigade retakes territory from the Russians. Military drone video shows the American Bradleys barreling in to provide cover to a group of pinned-down soldiers. This footage captures the moment fighters emerged from their armored vehicles in the village of Rubotina on the Eastern Front, stepping foot on newly taken territory and being met with the embrace, the tears of joy of civilians who've been under Russian occupation since the start of the war a year and a half ago. Those same Bradleys evacuating the villagers as the fighting continues. All summer long, this is what Ukrainians and their Western supporters yearn to see. Advanced Western-provided equipment and the soldiers trained in how to use them, finally producing some results. This map from the Institute for the Study of War assesses that the 47th Mechanized recaptured from the Russians the area in blue after breaking through the first line of Russian defenses marked by the triangles. This progress especially notable given that at the start of the counteroffensive in June, Ukraine's first assaults using their new NATO armor resulted in battlefield disaster, the forced abandonment of multi-million-dollar equipment in Russian minefields, and a huge loss of life. After that, Kyiv warned Western allies they planned to take a much slower, more cautious approach in order to save lives and equipment. Now the Bradleys are reappearing and gains are being made. The next target, Russia's second line of defense. A reminder of how costly that mission could be coming this week with this battlefield video of a NATO Striker landmine roller struck by Russian artillery during the fight for Rubotina. For Ukrainian soldiers, the cost of liberating their country remains brutally high. Jason Bellini, Scripps News.
Still ahead on Scripps News Live, fighting addiction with opioid settlement money, how an Ohio nonprofit is planning to tackle the growing problem, and why critics say families who've lost loved ones to addiction should have more of a say. We'll be right back.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No. There's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-293-5789 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-293-5789 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-293-5789. That's 800-293-5789. 800-293-5789.
Hey,
I'm inside the bank.
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave, the banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Will you pause it real quick? Just sold the car to Carvana.
What? All I had to do was answer a couple of questions and got a real offer in seconds.
Then they just picked up the car and paid me right on the spot.
Sell your car at Carvana.com today. Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
Welcome back. I'm Veronica Cruz. More than 5,100 Ohioans died from unintentional overdoses in 2021, and that is a record. It comes at a time when opioid manufacturers and distributors are paying Ohio more than $1 billion from lawsuit settlements. Clay Lepard with Scripps News Cleveland examines where this money is going and who it's supposed to help.
How many decisions does one make in a lifetime? 1,000? 1,000,000? Maybe more? Somehow between the big ones and the little ones, Keith Hohodl made it his life mission to prevent the wrong choice he made 30 years ago.
About 93, I hurt my back moving railroad ties. Had my own pharmacy, so I took a couple Vicodin and I was off to the races.
An addiction that didn't cost his life, but instead his livelihood and his family's love.
In 3 short years, it took everything that I had away from me. Took my family, my business, the lifelong career that I wanted.
Inside this transformed Canton church, he runs a nonprofit helping others find a job. He's also on the board for the One Ohio Foundation, the volunteer-led, state-created, newly privatized nonprofit responsible for distributing the growing bank account of opioid settlement money. The money injected into Ohio comes from 10 different companies that settled opioid lawsuits over the past several years. The One Ohio Foundation is expected to see about 55% of the pot, or nearly $1 billion, with 30% going to local government and 15% going to the state.
We're going to have a yearly distribution of funds. There'll be a yearly grant process.
Judge David Mattia sees what works and what doesn't from inside his drug court in Cuyahoga County.
How long were you using?
But this board member knows what works in Cleveland may not work in rural communities. That's why he says the foundation will support all sorts of ideas from different regions in the state, whether that's rehabilitation, access to transportation, or other forms of support needed to survive.
It's a nice opportunity to advance on our thinking on this. On the other hand, we're looking to fund evidence-based programs. This is not going to be cotton candy for people in recovery and acupuncture.
It's a lot of money.
Much of the money spent so far,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Has gone towards building the infrastructure behind a $1 billion entity, but not without controversy. Over its first year of existence, the foundation faced lawsuits regarding transparency and making records public. It was told by the Ohio Supreme Court it had to comply with those requests and responded by adding an amendment to the Ohio budget, turning itself into a private nonprofit.
It was designed to be an innovative approach to help our state put this important mission above politics and free from bureaucracy.
So they say they want to free themselves about politics. However, the board is all politicians.
Dennis Cushon leads Harm Reduction Ohio and spearheaded the lawsuit against the One Ohio Foundation.
The money can be put to good use, and that the impacted population needs to be welcomed to the table and have a voice at the table. It's their money. This money is literally paid as compensation for deaths. And the people who have lost loved ones have no representation in how the money is being spent.
The reason for the foundation's nonprofit status, the board says, is to avoid what happened when the state settled with Big Tobacco in 1998.
Cigarette smoking carries health risks, and for my own daughter, I hope as an adult, when she makes up her mind, that she decides not to smoke.
Back then, legislators diverted much of those funds away from tobacco prevention and instead put them in the state's general fund.
When I got appointed to this, I thought I was going to have a front row seat at the wasting of the tobacco, or the wasting of the opiate money like the tobacco money went.
It's important that this works the way it's designed to work, that the strategy to get the dollars and the resources out gets it out without somebody coming in, without state government coming and taking that money back and finding other uses for it.
Board members hope to open up the grant submission process as early as this fall, distributing the first round of funds in the spring of 2024. a new series of decisions with the potential to change how addiction is confronted and handled in Ohio.
Let's face it, what we've been doing hasn't worked very well.
Clay Lepard, Scripps News, Cleveland.
We'll be right back.
Nothing is more important than family. A family you're born into, a family you choose, or a family you make. I'm Padma Lakshmi. I came to this country when I was 4 years old with my mother. We came here because it was a land of opportunity. But for many, that's not the case.
Porque primero me separaron de mi mamá y de ahí de mi hermano.
Immigrant families are being separated. Black and brown families are torn apart by a broken legal system. LGBTQ people suffer discrimination in adoption and healthcare. The need to protect and defend the civil liberties we all hold dear is more urgent than ever because families belong together. You can help by joining the American Civil Liberties Union today.
Call or go online now and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day.
The ACLU has fought to allow LGBTQ couples to marry, for racial justice, to stop family separation. We can't do this work without you. Together, we can defend our democracy, ensure liberty and justice for all, and keep families strong.
So please, call the ACLU now or go to myaclu.org. When you use your credit card, you'll receive this special member kit to show you're part of a movement to defend free speech, protect our civil liberties, and keep families together.
I hope you'll join me in supporting the ACLU today, because we, the people, means all of us.
Call or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty today.
What should we do?
I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, we can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. For over a century, we've guaranteed the highest quality in everything we offer. To celebrate, we're offering you 50% off site-wide. That means you'll save 50% and get our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. Never tried Omaha Steaks? Save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
Sunday nights on In Real Life, Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
And to the heart of the story. In Real Life, Sunday at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Following some breaking news right now for you out of Pittsburgh, where there's been an active shooter there on the scene. According to the Pittsburgh Public Safety account on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, authorities have begun evacuating people from the homes in the area. Local reports say that hundreds of rounds have been fired in Garfield, which is a neighborhood in Pittsburgh. You see a very heavy police presence there on the scene. Apparently, this all happened when sheriff's deputies were reportedly serving an eviction notice, and the occupant of that building or of that home opened fire. As you can see right there, the Pittsburgh Police SWAT team are on the scene. There is also emergency management on the scene as well. We're going to continue to monitor this developing story and bring you updates there as we get them. So for years, budget-minded shoppers turned to used car lots to find a deal. But with inflation, supply chain shortages, finding something that's affordable has become more and more like looking for a needle in a haystack. Consumer reporter John Matarese has more.
Heading to a car dealership soon? Looking for a good, cheap used car? Well, good luck. A new report says affordable used cars are vanishing, leaving buyers with older vehicles with often twice the mileage.
Hanley Clark is signing the papers to buy a used minivan after weeks of frustration.
Prices are high, mileages are high.
He was shocked to see so many used cars for 20 grand or higher.
One of the big features is the side blind monitors in the mirror.
Dealer Gary Heflin says there are several reasons for the high prices. One, all the technology on today's vehicles.
So the camera's built right in there.
Plus, fewer lease turn-ins and low mileage trade-ins.
People that may have traded a car at 70,000 miles says, well, I can't get a new car. I'm just going to keep it.
A report from IC Cars shows that used cars under $20,000 made up 49% of the market in 2019, nearly half. Today, those cars make up just 12% of the market.
You've got $20,000 to spend on a used vehicle. You have to get an older model year one and or one with considerably more mileage.
Today, the average price of a used 1 to 5-year-old car is more than $34,000, up from $22,000 in 2015. There is one upside.
If you have a car right now, then that's your biggest bargaining chip.
Right now, you'll get a better trade-in deal, according to Joseph Yoon with Edmunds.
That vehicle that you have in the garage or sitting in the driveway, that's going to be your cash cow.
Looking for a deal? Gary Heflin says avoid pricey SUVs and pickup trucks.
Probably the best value out there is a good low-mile four-door sedan.
Hanley Clark ended up with this minivan to avoid high prices. That way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese.
Well, if you know someone in the market for a house, you might want to check out this one in Cincinnati. It spent its first 160 years as a church. But after 2 years of renovations, it's now one of the most distinctive homes in the city. Jasmine Stiles of Scripps News Cincinnati gives us a look.
This is it.
This is it. This is 1835 Saints, so.
You may have driven past it on Bay Miller Street, or maybe you came across it on Zillow Gone Wild.
Pictures never do it justice. And
now you get a chance to go inside with me and its current owner, Abdiel Acevedo.
I'm usually a pretty private person, but for this building, I knew that for the neighborhood and for the revitalization that's going on in the West End, I wanted to show to other people.
It took 2 years of renovations, but Acevedo transformed what used to be a church for 160 years to a one-of-a-kind home.
When you get in here, this is kind of the wow factor. It was one big open space, so it just gave you a clear canvas of there's endless possibilities of things that we could do in here.
I see that there's a couple elements of the church that are still here, like a lot of stained glass windows. I think I see like organ pipes in the back.
The 2-bedroom space with rookwood tile lining the kitchen and a giant stained glass window that puts Acevedo front row to magnificent sunrises, plus 2 other living spaces where he has a renter, then lists the other one on Airbnb, could now belong to someone else.
And you're ready to give all this up?
Yeah, I think, the neighborhood is ready for new energy and someone that can take this building to the next level.
Acevedo's property is up for sale. Asking price, $1,499,900. Rick Finn is the listing agent who says he's fielded several calls from buyers.
I showed it to an agent from Chicago last Friday, and we've had people just interested in churches. I had a guy who lives in Australia, but owns church properties in the United States, looked at it a week or 2 ago.
Acevedo has been reflecting on his time at 1835 Saints. He hopes the next occupants at his property and beyond will add to the neighborhood, just like he did.
I love the West End. I've been here for 10 years, and I really think that it just needs a little bit of love and sweat equity.
Wow, what a gorgeous, gorgeous home there. And that was Jasmine Stiles reporting for us there in Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online. Check out scripsnews.com. And if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. Before we go to break, we're going to check in again on some pictures coming out of Pittsburgh, where there's been an active shooter on the scene there. These pictures again coming out of Pittsburgh. We're going to bring you an update in the next hour of Scripps News Live. We'll be right back.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday. Always good to see you. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. Welcome to Scripps News Live. We begin this hour with some breaking news out of Pittsburgh. Police responding to an active shooter report. Local media is saying that hundreds of rounds have been fired so far in Garfield, which is a neighborhood in Pittsburgh. Let's get you right out to national correspondent Axel Tercios, who's live for us on the ground. Axel, so we do know that this has been an active shooter situation. What is the latest? Have police given the all clear?
Well, that's not being given yet, Veronica. What we know so far is that there is a heavy police presence in the area as officers are responding to what Pittsburgh Public Safety is calling an extremely active situation with shots continuing to be fired. So police have said that they are evacuating residents from the area at the moment. This is happening in the Garfield neighborhood, which is located in the east end of the city of Pittsburgh. On social media, Public Safety, which is composed by the fire department and the police department, posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, calling on people to avoid the area and telling residents if they are inside a place inside their homes to shelter in place, call 911, identify their address and location so that they can be evacuated. So the sheriff's office has said that the suspect turned violent when deputies arrived to the address to serve an eviction notice. That's what we know so far. And several local media outlets are reporting at this moment that hundreds of rounds have been fired and that the suspect may have shut down 2 police drones. Also, SWAT team is now taking over the scene and the investigation. As soon as we know more details, we're going to bring you the latest on this story that is still developing. Veronica.
All right, Axel Tercios live for us there in New York. Axel, thank you so much for the update there. So the stage is set and Republican candidates are ready to face off in the first primary debate tonight in Milwaukee. 8 candidates qualified to participate, but you probably will notice one big name that is missing. Former President Trump deciding to skip tonight's debate. He's leading the polls despite 4 indictments. Though his absence will be noticeable, it could actually work against the candidates who will be there. Congressional correspondent Nate Reed joins us now live from Milwaukee. So, Nate, former President Trump is #1 in all of the polls right now, all of the Republican primary polls. He is going to sit this one out. What is happening tonight in terms of counter programming? What can we expect?
Well, former President Trump will be the elephant in the room at the Fiserv Forum behind me. That is where all the candidates running who have qualified by making at least 1% in multiple national and some key state polls will be on the debate stage. Former President Trump, though, choosing to sit this one out. Some of his surrogates already saying that he's won the debate given those extremely strong poll numbers. Ron DeSantis, his closest primary competitor, is a distant second, polling with just 16% in some of the most recent polls that we've seen. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, a key surrogate for former President Trump, spoke with me yesterday. She said that given that he is polling so well, it was her suggestion he sit this one out. Take a listen.
He doesn't need to debate. That was actually a bit of advice I gave him. Given that he's winning with over 40 points ahead, he doesn't need to prove to the American people what he can do as president. He's already proven it with a 4-year record.
And the former president will be a key focus of tonight's debate, despite the fact that he's not going to be on that stage. We can expect many of the candidates to be taking aim at Chris Christie, who has attacked former President Trump, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has been a key person in these primaries, polling just behind former President Trump. At the same time, everyone on that stage is going to want some of that magic, some of that debate poll numbers to make it any further in this primary.
All right, Nate. So taking aim at Chris Christie could be one strategy, and there will be 8 candidates on that debate stage. What else can we expect?
Well, we know what the lineup is going to look like on that stage. We're going to see the top polling figures in the center of the stage. I believe we can show that to you now. That will be with Ron DeSantis in the center of the stage. Just behind him, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's polling in the high single digits. Everyone else pretty much on the outside of them. On the furthest to your right, though, Doug Burnham, the governor of North Dakota, he might actually be sitting this debate out. He played pickup basketball yesterday, got into an injury. He injured himself, had to go to the emergency room. It's not clear that he can sit on that stage. According to his campaign, he's having some trouble standing up. We don't know yet from the RNC whether he will be able to participate or given a chair or some other form of accommodation, but he was just polling at 1%. And that's important to note because in this debate, all of those candidates are going to be looking for some sort of viral moment. If they get that viral moment, they can hopefully use that to translate to higher poll numbers moving forward. We already know what the criteria is for them to qualify for the next Republican debate, which is happening in late September at the Ronald Reagan Library. That requires 3% in national polls and at least 50,000 unique donors. They also need to sign those same pledges to participate in RNC-sanctioned debates and supporting the eventual nominee. So everyone on that stage looking for a bump in the polls, trying to get those numbers above 3% to stay alive in this presidential race, one where the former president, who is polling far ahead of everybody on the stage tonight at the Fiserv Forum, will not be in attendance. Veronica?
All right, Nathaniel Reed live for us there in Milwaukee. Nate, thank you so much. So former President Trump's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is in Atlanta after his indictment for his alleged role in trying to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. He's one of the biggest names among the 19 defendants named in the indictment. Giuliani says he will negotiate his bond first. Once that's done, he's going to be surrendering to authorities. Here's what he said before leaving for Georgia.
They're going to degrade themselves by doing a mugshot of me. Like, people won't recognize me. And now, of course, they can fingerprint me, but I've been fingerprinted 150 times, so this will turn out exactly like the FBI search turned out. They're lying. I'm telling the truth.
Now, the former president plans to turn himself in tomorrow. In a social media post today, he said that no one ever fought for election integrity like he did, and he will proudly be arrested tomorrow. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, our tourist welcome in Maui. Some business owners say that the doors are open.
It was a big part of Hawaii. And us little people, we need them.
Others have a different take. We're going to hear from several sides of this situation. Also, don't forget that you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours, beginning at 6 Eastern. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now, and if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health. and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Hey. Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500? What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave, the banking app.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she going to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Officials say more than 800 people are still missing on Maui after those deadly wildfires ignited 2 weeks ago. And they're asking families of those unaccounted for to submit DNA samples. Officials say a little more than 100 families have done so. The FBI has a list of about 1,000 people who may still be unaccounted for.
All of this testing is happening right here in Maui, and the samples that are donated at the Family Assistance Center are not being entered into any sort of government-run databases that are used for any other purposes.
Right now, there are 115 confirmed deaths, and authorities say they are done searching single-story homes in the disaster area and are moving on right now to searching multi-story homes and businesses. In the meantime, people in Maui have been trying to adjust to their new normal after the wildfires. Many people urge tourists to delay their travel plans as communities rebuild. But that advice is causing some people to worry about the economic loss. Scripps News correspondent Maritza Giorgio explains for us.
As the island of Maui focuses on what's next after that deadly wildfire in Lahaina, a lot of people with plans to come to Maui say they don't know what to do. Are tourists welcome? Well, turns out there's a lot of mixed messaging. After the fire tragedy in Lahaina, an unusual moment of silence on Maui. A needed pause for some, but too quiet for others. As the extent of the devastation in Lahaina became clear, there was an even clearer call for tourists to stay away from Maui. Actor Jason Momoa took to social media telling his followers, do not travel to Maui. Many listened. The Hawaii Tourism Authority says more than 46,000 people flew out of Kahului Airport in the immediate days after the fire. Planes are landing at OGG now, nearly empty.
It's really slow because everybody was saying don't come to Maui. It's not enough food for everybody, but right now it's really slow.
Many on other parts of the island worry what will happen without the engine of tourism driving the local economy. What do you say to people who say, I don't think it's time for me to go to Maui, or don't come to Maui?
Ask the relative that works in a hotel if what they think. Ask them. They're going to be the ones out of work.
State data shows about 1 in 5 jobs in Maui County are related to tourism. Tourists spent $5.7 billion on Maui last year. A desolate Kaanapali beach, empty shops, and unused rental cars. It reminds these Hawaiians of another event they were just starting to recover from.
And it looks like when COVID hit,
Same thing, all the calls piled up.
Almost everyone we talked with has a loved one either displaced, still missing, or worse.
We lost an auntie. She was located through DNA. And then I have 3 cousins that lost their homes.
And while people hear more on what happened, many know their future depends on visitors spending money.
Tourism is a big part of Hawaii. And us little people, we need them.
Locals in the camp that want tourists to return to Maui say there's a way to be here respectfully, something many feel has been ignored by some visitors, like this post showing a boat full of tourists snorkeling in the same waters people used to try to escape the flames.
Look at all these tourists just frolicking in the waters off of Lahaina.
The snorkeling outfit issued an apology days later, saying they would suspend operations. In addition to respect, nobody wants to see resources like hotel rooms taken away from locals who need them.
Right now, we are in a period of mourning, and all of the resources that need to be brought to bear to help the people of Lahaina and upcountry Maui.
The governor addressed the world during President Biden's visit Monday, saying nobody can travel to West Maui at this time.
But all of the other areas of Maui, friends, and the rest of Hawaii are safe. They're open, they're available. The aloha is here for you. And the reason I say that is because when you come, you will support our local economy and help speed the recovery of the people that are suffering right now.
There are other ways to help too.
I met some tourists from Germany and Austria and other places who are spending their last few days on Maui volunteering at the center.
Maritza Giorgio, Scripps News, Maui.
It really does go without saying, Maui has a long road ahead. Monetary donations will be crucial for survivors struggling to piece their lives back together again. Scripps News is supporting those relief efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. All you have to do is scan that QR code that you see right there on your screen if you'd like to help. Our coverage of the Maui wildfires continues in your next half hour of Scripps News Live. We're going to hear from a man who could have lost his home in the flames if it wasn't for his neighbor's bravery and determination. He's going to join me live at 1:30 Eastern to tell me what happened. Authorities still searching for a missing woman after Tropical Storm Hilary brought record rain to Southern California. Witnesses say that the woman was inside a trailer, which was swept away by a flash flood. Both San Bernardino County Fire Crews and Sheriff's Department deputies have been leading that rescue effort. And more than a third of the country right now is facing life-threatening heat. A so-called heat dome covering much of the Midwest, the South, and the Southwest, prompting heat warnings and advisories in 17 different states. And it includes major cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and New Orleans. According to the National Weather Service, those cities will see highs in the upper 90s and low 100s throughout the end of the week, but the humidity is going to make it feel like it's about 20 degrees warmer. A Scripps News investigation revealing more than 14,000 bridges urgently need repair or replacement. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is now responding to our investigation. We'll have the details in a one-on-one interview next. And we would like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Again, it's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945. Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
How does Klein Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Spector.
For over 100 years, this light has shined. Through generations of Americans, this light carries on.
Reporting from Ukraine, Scripps News.
A beacon of the free American press. Reporting the facts, telling the whole story. This light illuminates, it informs, and now shines even brighter. Scripps News.
20 minutes after the hour right now, let's give you a check of Wall Street. Lots of green on the board today. Things looking pretty good. All 3 indices are actually in the green right now. The Dow Jones posting about 212 points, the S&P gaining about 50, and the NASDAQ with the biggest jump at this hour, 225 points is what the NASDAQ is up right now. We're going to keep a close eye on it for you. Want to get you some other business news right now. UPS workers ratifying a new 5-year contract. The Teamsters Union saying there was 86% approval for the agreement. UPS says the average full-time driver is now going to make about $170,000 a year in pay and benefits by the end of the contract. The deal also scraps overtime on days drivers are off, and it also makes Martin Luther King Jr. Day a full holiday. The agreement staves off a threatened strike. In other news at this hour, I want to get you now to an exclusive interview. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg responding to a Scripps News investigation that found thousands of bridges are in dire need of repair. Some of them have been decaying for more than a decade. President Biden worked with Congress to boost funding for bridge projects all across the country, but we found that those efforts simply won't be enough. Scripps News investigative correspondent Patrick Terpstra joins us now live from Washington. So Patrick, I understand that your investigation revealed a big problem here. Too many broken bridges, not enough money to fix them. What can you tell us?
And the surprising thing, Veronica, is that President Biden and Secretary Buttigieg have traveled the country pledging to fix all of America's broken bridges. But we found a backlog of bridges, many of them that will not be fixed anytime soon.
If you look closely at bridges in this country, you'll find a public safety crisis. Our recent Scripps News investigation revealed thousands of bridges from coast to coast have been listed in poor condition for years.
It doesn't look like it's in great shape.
It's not in great shape, no.
Many in urgent need of repair or replacement. By our count, at least 46 million passengers are using these deteriorating structures every day.
From the DOT, Patrick Terpstra.
Few in the U.S. government have more responsibility for the safety of these bridges than Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg.
I want to ask about the findings of our Scripps News bridge investigation. We found over 14,000 bridges around the country have been in poor condition for over a decade. Does that surprise you?
Well, you know, this is something that we have been hearing about for years, even for decades. We kept seeing these reports about civil engineers giving America not a very good grade.
You all have a lot of work to do. 14,000 bridges in poor condition. What explains that huge number?
Well, you get what you pay for. It's kind of like failing to fix a leaky roof because you think that'll save you money. It might in the short term, but it's not the right answer for the long run.
Buttigieg says the Biden administration has made upgrading bridges a priority, injecting billions of dollars in cash to get the job done. He tells us the state of today's bridges can be blamed on years of inaction.
Year after year, Congress after Congress, administration after administration, we didn't see the kind of major investment that was really needed. The important thing is right now we are moving it in the right direction so that instead of getting worse, it's getting better.
We found the Biden administration's efforts are helping to pay for bridge projects, more than 6,400 so far. But the list of bridges needing repairs has only been getting longer. The number of structures considered to be in fair or poor condition has been growing over the past decade, according to a Scripps News analysis of data from the Federal Highway Administration.
Sorry, this whole bridge collapsed.
Pittsburgh offered a horrifying example of what can happen when a bridge is left in a state of disrepair for too long. This bridge, known as Fern Hollow, collapsed just before the morning rush hour in January 2022, injuring 10 people.
But without possibly more people underneath the bridge.
The NTSB hasn't finished its investigation yet, but says years of unaddressed corrosion on the supports was likely a factor. A year and a half after that collapse, we were surprised to find so many other bridges in Pittsburgh literally crumbling in our hands.
I'm barely even pulling, and these pieces just come apart.
Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey, an ally of President Biden, told us Washington needs to do more to keep bridges usable and safe.
Funding is a major issue. I'm so fortunate that President Biden focused on a bipartisan infrastructure bill, but the reality is we need more.
Why can't a city like Pittsburgh get the money it needs to keep bridges in a state where they are safe and able to stay open?
What we have right now is the largest investment in roads and bridges since the Eisenhower administration. And it's a level of funding that is frankly testing how much the American economy can actually absorb, making sure we have the raw materials for this, making sure that we have the workforce ready to do this.
Are you confident then that we will not see another bridge collapse like we saw in Pittsburgh?
We can't guarantee that a disaster will never happen, but what we can do is make the investments to shore up the conditions of our infrastructure and hold every entity that is responsible for inspecting those bridges and roads accountable for their responsibilities.
Buttigieg says this country is just at the beginning of what he calls an infrastructure decade. Yet a report from the Congressional Research Service we found says it could take 20 years to eliminate the backlog of bad bridges, assuming Congress keeps up historically high funding levels. That's far from a sure thing. The infrastructure bill squeaked into law last year with opposition from most Republicans who said it was too costly.
At the scene of the Fern Hollow collapse, President Biden said of bridges, "We're going to fix them all. This is going to be a gigantic change." How long do people need to wait?
Well, it took decades to get here, and so it's not going to be changed overnight. But what we're finally doing and what we're able to do is change the trajectory. The good news is we're underway on it now, and yes, there's a long way to go.
And these bridges that we have identified are in poor condition, they are decaying, but they are not considered unsafe. And the Secretary says he believes that this country's rigorous systems of inspections will ensure that bridges stay safe. But still, Veronica, pretty surprising to hear the Secretary of Transportation say that he cannot guarantee that there will not be another bridge collapse. Veronica.
Yeah, it really is. Great work there with the reporting, Patrick. Patrick Terpstra, live in Washington for us. Thank you. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including a new survey detailing mistreatment during maternity care. We'll have the details for you after a quick break. We'll be right back.
Law enforcement calls it house stealing, when cyber thieves transfer the title to your home out of your name to take out fraudulent loans or even sell it. How do you protect yourself? Get Triple Lock Protection from Home Title Lock. Our Triple Lock Protection gives you 1, 24/7 monitoring, 2, urgent alerts of any title changes, and 3, title restoration help from our team of experts. Do you know if your title is safe? Check your title status now at HomeTitleLock.com.
At first, just leaving the house was hard.
But Wounded Warrior Project helps you realize it's possible to get out there.
To feel a sense of camaraderie again.
To find the tools to live life better.
Through generous community support, we've connected warriors and their families with no-cost physical and mental health services, legislative advocacy, career assistance, and life skill training for 20 years. And we're just getting started.
Why is Aaron happy? Well, just days ago, his old wheels gave out. But he knew Carvana had his back. That's because Carvana had thousands of cars under $20,000. And with the new co-signer option, Aaron's folks were able to help him out with a new ride. No way. Yes way. With thousands of cars under $20,000 and our co-signer option, we'll drive you happy at Carvana.
Welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Wednesday. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Let's get you caught up on the day's top stories right now. The horror of what happened in Hawaii is so much more than numbers and statistics. Those only tell part of an unimaginable story. The wildfires on the once heavenly island of Maui burned over 3 square miles to the ground, including the entire historic town of Lahaina. The rising death toll, the looming effort to rebuild have been overwhelming, all of which can overshadow thousands of individual stories.
This is unprecedented. And this tragedy not only destroyed a whole town, a community, it destroyed, part of our spirit. I'm sure as you go through talking to various people, you will hear stories of disappointment, of course, because they've lost a lot. And I can't, you can't blame them for being disappointed. But there are many success stories as well.
And there is at least one success story that may stand above all others. Sean Sarabay and a few friends were trapped on Front Street in historic downtown Lahaina. They were in the middle of what would become the deadliest U.S. fire in over 100 years, armed only with hope and a garden hose. Zoe Ann Murphy is one of the Washington Post reporters who covered Sean's story for us. She joins us now along with Sean's neighbor, Archie Kalepa, who is a Lahaina elder and is also a world-class surfer. So Zoe Ann, let's go ahead and start with you right here. What was going through your head as you were putting this story together? And what do you make of it? Tell us more about what Sean Sarabay lived through.
Yeah, well, when I met Sean, he started sharing these incredible videos with us of what he had experienced there. And we had been hearing so many stories, but to see it in video, to actually see the flames and him grabbing those hoses and the community coming together to try to save what they could of Lahaina was really moving, and we really wanted to get those videos that he shot out to the world.
And the videos are harrowing because, from what I understand, he had nothing. He was able to find a church, figure out the water spigots, grab the garden hose, and keep the ground around him wet. Now, Archie, I want to go and bring you in right here. I understand that you're an important, if not legendary, figure there in Lahaina. What has this story meant to you? Because from what I understand, he was your neighbor and was able to save your house. Zoe Ann, can you tell us a little bit more about what happened here?
Yeah, well, I think Archie could speak directly to him saving the house, but we met him. I was on my way into Lahaina, and I was reaching out to different sources about who to talk to and who to interview, and everybody said you have to talk to Archie Kalepa, that he's one of the most important voices in the community, and can speak to what has happened and also what needs to happen next.
And Archie, I want to go ahead and bring you in right here, and I apologize for that because I know that your shot went down momentarily, which is why we went back to Zoe Ann. But share your story and tell us exactly what happened.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say aloha and good morning. It's little stories like this that big heroes have come out of this tragedy, and this is part of the lifestyle in Hawaii. This is the way for many generations this place has taken care of its own people. And talking to Sean during every day, he's my neighbor, and talking to him about these stories of things that he's seen happen to Lahaina, being in the middle of it all and putting his life on the line and helping others and taking control of situations, and just to get out of the middle of the chaos. And then him coming here and breaking down my fence and holding the line. And if he didn't do that, there would probably be 104 homes destroyed in Lahaina. And this is just one of many heroic acts that so many others did in this crazy tragedy that happened to Lahaina. And it's just unfathomable, unexplainable. It was an apocalypse, and people are starting to we're hearing more and more stories of heroic acts just like Sean.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the pictures and you can see the scope of the devastation there. And Archie, I wanted to ask you what you want to say to Sean right now, because I understand that Sean saved your home. Sean's home is gone. Sean, like you said, was able to save a lot of homes in the neighborhood. What would you like to say to him?
What I want to say to Sean is he's a hero. He should be recognized as a national hero for his acts of kindness, for his unwavering ability to put his life on the line and do the greater good and save others, knowing that his family may not ever see him again. And it was just so touching seeing his videos. And the good thing about him is he brings a lot of light to all of this, and the way he's been able to deal with this has made us all laugh, because we see him every night. He comes over, and for a man and a family that has lost everything, and his view of how he's moving forward is amazing, is really amazing. And he's a prime example, not only as a hero, but as someone that can uplift this community that is in suffering, this community that is in mourning, this community that it needs help and still struggling with how are we going to rebuild this community, Lahaina, which not only affects Lahaina, but will affect all of Hawaii and the rest of the world.
Now, Zoanne, Sean kept talking to his family as he was trying to get home. You've done such a great job putting the pieces together, the words and the video. I wanted to go ahead and run a little bit of the sound from the moment that he didn't know whether or not he was going to make it. Take a listen.
Okay, it's bad. All around, it's crazy. I said to Lahaina Methodist Church, I love you. Don't worry, remember what Dad said, huh? Come back. Don't worry, girls. Marley, Riley, Twyla. Don't worry, I love you guys.
Yeah, I mean, listening to him there, it's chilling hearing his words. Zoanne, what are you hoping that people get from the story as folks in Maui now start to rebuild?
Yeah, I think that these videos really help us empathize, those of us that weren't there. We can see what happened through his videos. And, you know, I hope it opens people's hearts to what so many lived through during those fires. And we continue to pay attention to Maui and continue to get resources there to help them as they rebuild.
And Archie, I understand that you were able to speak with the president, President Biden, the First Lady. They were there. They came to visit the island on Monday. What did he have to say to you?
You know, it was very kind words. And I told him we need help and we have one chance. We have one chance to get this right for the people of Hawaii. Otherwise, we're going to continue to get things wrong. And how important it was for us to get his support in rebuilding this community. And he looked into my eyes and said, "You have our 100% support to rebuild this community." It's how we're going to do this is what is really, really important. And getting everybody on the table and knowing that he is in support of our government leaders, from the mayor to the governor and everyone else, including the community. First of all, he is in support of that. He gave us his word, and we look forward to the rebuilding of our community, our homes, the place that we love, Lahaina, Maui, and all of Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really is a lot. There are so many people still missing. There is a long road ahead. Archie, before I let you go, what do you think are the most important elements when it comes to recovery, both short-term and long-term? What do you think the folks in Maui need right now?
Well, I think, you know, there's no playbook for what happened. We are just trying to live day to day and process this and figure out what is the next step. I think part of it is letting FEMA come true, get the recovery efforts, the identifying of families, get through that, and then figure out what is the next steps on how do we rebuild with the right people on the table and how that's going to happen, and just making sure that our people of Lahaina is heard in their in this journey to restoring our community.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Archie.
There's no answer. There's no immediate. Believe in honesty, and we have to believe in. And I think there's 3 core values that people need to understand when it comes to Hawaii and its people. And that is love your family, take care and love your land. You will have a strong and powerful community. Those 3 simple things are so hard, but if we can accomplish those 3 things, we can begin to rebuild our community in the way that it should.
Yeah, love your family, your land, your community. And we're looking at a photo there of Sean Sarabay and his family, who thankfully he was reunited with. Zoanne Murphy, Washington Post video journalist, and Lahaina community leader Archie Kalepa, thank you so much for your time today. Again, our hearts are with those in Maui as you work to rebuild. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Olo.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, India is celebrating a successful mission to the moon. We're going to have details on the landing and what it all means for space exploration. And a quick reminder, you can find our stories and a whole lot more online. Feel free to check us out. ScripsNews.com is a place. Also on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
That's all.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but the front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
Female hair thinning is so common. That's where hers comes in. You can take their free hair quiz, provide some info about your health history, and a medical provider can recommend a personalized treatment plan just for you. Take the hair quiz today at forhers.com.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500? I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app. What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. Cheering and excitement in India this morning. The country became the 4th country to successfully land on the moon. The Chandrayaan-3, which means moon vehicle in Sanskrit, was able to touch down on the moon's south pole, which has never been done before. Exciting moment. National correspondent Clayton Sandell joins us now live with the details here. All right, Clayton, let's talk a little bit about the significance here. What does this moon landing now mean for future moon missions, not just in India, but for all countries?
Yeah, Veronica, good afternoon. It is something that has been 47 years in the making. That is the last time any country put a lander successfully on the moon. Back then it was the Soviet Union, but today the celebration belongs to India. And I just want to play and let you hear that moment that the spacecraft descended from lunar orbit and made that perfect touchdown on the moon. Here it is.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल
So lots of celebration and pride across the country today. India is now only the fourth nation to pull off a moon landing after the U.S., Soviet Union, and China. And today, India's prime minister congratulated not only the team, but the entire country. Take a listen.
This success belongs to all of humanity, and it will help moon missions by other countries in the future.
So this is also a big deal. India scored a historic first today by landing in the South Pole region of the moon. So why is this important? Well, scientists tell us that this part of the moon has craters that don't get a lot of sunlight. So inside them, they don't get warm. And hopefully there is where you can find supplies of things like frozen water or other chemicals that astronauts may one day be able to use on the moon. So this will be the first close-up scientific study of this area by India. They've even got a rover that hitched a ride inside, so they're not stuck in one spot, Veronica. They'll be able to move and explore around the surface a little bit.
Wow, yeah, all very, very exciting. So Clayton, I wanted to ask you why so much time went by. You had just mentioned that the last moon lander touched down nearly half a century ago, about 47 years ago. What was going on in the meantime? Why has it taken so long to go back?
Yeah, exactly. We've seen a number of missions land, for example, on Mars in the last few years, but not so much on the moon. But it isn't for a lack of trying. In fact, 2023 is the busiest year for attempted moon landings since the Apollo era. And I say attempts because there have been a number of notable failures this year, including just a few days ago. Russia, which was kind of racing India to the moon, had a problem with its Luna 25 mission. The Russians say they had a communications problem that ended up in a crash. And then back in April, Japan also had a spacecraft smash into the surface, but Japan will try again this weekend to launch a moon mission, and two private U.S. companies hope to launch later this year. So the moon is getting a lot of interest right now because this is the same area where NASA plans to send astronauts on the Artemis 3 mission later this decade, and it really comes with a lot of opportunity to learn exactly how to survive in space, and maybe one day, Veronica, go to Mars.
There you go. There you go. Very exciting. All right, Clayton Sandell live from Denver. Always appreciate it. Thank you. All right, coming up next on Scripps News Live, straight ahead of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, a U.S. Congresswoman is recalling this overwhelming moment in history. She's sharing her hope for the future. We'll have more after this.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions, and rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
It's all about putting in the work. I prepare the same way for the long haul. Tonal gives you all those stats to be able to say, okay, let's do this now. It's all about just training your mind to be as great as you can. Tonal, be your strongest.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Carvana has hundreds of thousands of five-star reviews and counting.
The whole process was really simple and easy, and this is my third time selling to Carvana.
You just enter your license plate or your VIN, answer a few questions, boom, you get a real offer.
Sell your car to Carvana today.
Join renowned journalists and filmmakers.
Oh my God.
For news stories every week.
What else do we have to take?
Scripps News Showcase. Sunday nights at 9/8 Central on Scripps News.
All right, if you thought that masks were a thing of the past, then you want to think again. And that's because hospitals have been seeing an uptick in COVID patients. So health experts are advising people in high-risk groups to keep your mask on. Now, the CDC doesn't have a broad policy for adopting mask wearing, but recommends universal masking where the virus is at high levels. Better maternal care often equals better health outcomes, but it's not happening in some hospitals. And patients have been describing their bad experiences in a new report. Amber Strong has the findings for us.
Disappointing. That's what CDC Reproductive Health Director Dr. Wanda Barfield calls the results of a new survey, where 1 in 5 women say they were mistreated during maternal care. That mistreatment includes verbal abuse and invasions of physical privacy. Race, age, and the weight of a patient were often cited as points of discrimination, with nearly 30% of Black, multiracial, and Hispanic women reporting mistreatment, and 30% of those with no or public insurance.
There is a level of dismissal to specific groups in healthcare.
Patients advocates like Dr. Bio Curry Winchell say they aren't surprised. According to the CDC, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women.
It's a blend of systemic racism, unconscious bias, the lack of investment in diversity and training of healthcare professionals, as well as the need for more representation. As a Black female physician, I almost died during childbirth, and I shared this story because my hope is that it can help others.
20% of those surveyed say they didn't ask questions or discuss concerns during maternal care because they were afraid the provider would think they were being difficult. The CDC is encouraging hospitals to slow down and really listen and embrace the use of doulas, who can often serve as a voice for hesitant patients.
They will be a part of the answer because we have to have, healthcare professionals who are really acutely aware of their own unconscious biases, as well as being able to hear, because if you are not listening to your patient, you may not be listening to that doula as well.
Amber Strong, Scripps News, Washington.
Well, Saturday is going to mark the celebration of 60 years since the historic March on Washington, when more than 250,000 nonviolent protesters rallied in the nation's capital. And it was there that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech, highlighting police brutality and economic disparity, while also calling for racial harmony. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton helped to organize the march and says that she was overwhelmed with emotion when she saw the massive crowd. She explained the original march led to landmark legislative change as it focused on jobs and freedom, and she says that she hopes this year will be no different.
Unlike the kind of atmosphere we had during the March on Washington, we have exactly the opposite now. What I'd like to see come out of the march again as we commemorate it is a reflection on what we can do when all sides work together to get something important done.
The 60th anniversary march is Saturday at the Lincoln Memorial. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online. That address is scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. I'll be back with you at 3 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, Lauren Magarino's up next. She has more of the day's top stories after a quick break. We'll be right back.